You know, I remember going to school, my dad's pharmacy, getting hit by a car.
You got hit by a car?
I got
How
hit
old?
by a car. I must have been 9.
I got hit by a bus as well.
Are you
Around the same age. I'm not lying to you.
Okay,
Around the
okay.
same age. Understand?
I do understand.
Okay.
No, I think it's a mixture.
Okay.
I think it's a mixture. I was very, very apprehensive about getting married.
In general, okay.
Yeah, a part of me really did not want to get married.
Okay. Man, if only she had known, or if only they had known.
Yeah, definitely. So, sorry to use the example, but periods.
Yeah, true,
the classic
true.
example. A lot of women don't know, you know, your periods don't have to be heavy and you don't have to be flooding and all these things. And
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Just Everyday People. My name is Jesus Baby, loudly Jesus Baby. Thank you so much guys for tuning in. And as always, I'm not alone. I am with one of my great friends, Wumi. If I could just list off some of her, accomplishments. You're a physician's associate?
yes.
Yes. You serve in the nurture team with Impact Mission UK.
Yes, I do.
Yes. You're also in the youth children's department at Foursquare.
Yes.
As well.
Yes.
You help lead or run couples.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Hey, don't worry. You've got a few more. Every other time I see you in a picture, you're with a child. So you have this nurturing thing about you. I mean, what don't you do? What don't you do?
A lot of things.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. But really, though, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for
agreeing to be on the
having
show. So yeah, you do have a lot of areas in which you kind of are involved in. But I think we'll probably just start from the beginning, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Yep. How are you doing today?
I am nervous but good.
There is no need to be nervous. Trust me.
Yeah.
Trust me. Okay, so your journey started in Nigeria.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you have any recollections of that?
I was born in Nigeria, but I only lived there till I was about 6.
Okay.
And then we moved to Botswana. So my memory of Nigeria is very, very limited.
Okay.
I remember sort of where we used to live. I remember all the, wonderful stories you would hear. But yeah, because I left so young, I don't really have as many memories of Nigeria as I do of Botswana, for example.
Okay.
Or here in the UK. So.
Okay. How about Botswana as well?
Botswana, yes, I have a lot more memories of Botswana than I do of Nigeria. So, I remember going to school, my dad's pharmacy, getting hit by a car.
You got hit by a car?
I got
How
hit
old?
by a car. I must have been 9.
I got hit by a bus as well.
Are you
Around the same age. I'm not lying to you.
Okay,
Around the
okay.
same age.
Wow. But that's actually a testimony because my sister and I had gone to the library, but I decided, I'm just gonna go back to my dad's pharmacy because it wasn't too far.
Okay.
So I decided to go back by myself. So there's a lesson here. And on my way back, I just remember stepping onto the road and then finding myself flat on the road with a bunch of strangers around me. But the testimony is the fact that one of the strangers actually knew my dad and they knew the pharmacy.
Got you.
So they literally carried me in their arms all the way back to my dad's pharmacy. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So yeah. So that's.
Did you go to the hospital after that?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there any breaks, any broken bones? Or?
I was in a cast for maybe a good 12 weeks.
Oh, wow.
I left it, yeah. So actually not so much recently, but usually when the weather gets cold or if I just suddenly sprint, like my foot would just go.
You still feel it?
Not as much in the last 2-3 years. I've been praying about it. I'm like, God, I can't live like this. So
Oh, wow.
yeah. So
Interesting.
yes.
I think for me, it was pretty much, there's some similarities in the idea that you did what you shouldn't have done. So
Yeah.
I was pretty much babysitting my little brother. I was told that, okay, just stay at home, don't go out, stay at home. Me. I went to get some popcorn, we went out. So our house was here, I guess the sellers and other stuff was on the other side across the street. Obviously I looked left and right. The bus
Something
was parked.
I've done many times.
So I guess they saw me, but as I took off, the bus took off as well.
Oh.
So the bus took off, boom, just hit me.
Wow.
The thing is, I was so scared my mom was gonna find out. I completely just got up and just tried to run back home, just Please don't let anyone. Please don't let anyone find out. Please,
gosh.
God. But yeah, I won't find out. Thank God she didn't beat me after that. But yeah, I
that's
did
nice.
go to the hospital. But thank God no breaks.
Nothing
but,
broken.
interesting.
That's good. Thank God.
Okay. Any other recollections of Botswana?
Wow. I remember where we used to
So there's four of
live.
you, 4 siblings, right?
4 siblings,
Four
so
siblings.
I'm number 5.
Okay.
I remember the church in Botswana.
Okay.
So my dad was pastoring a church, and just
So you're a PK as well?
No comment.
Oh, come on. This is perfect. This is perfect. Okay, carry on.
So the language barrier was obviously a major issue. So my sisters and I really, really tried to pick up Setswana as best as we can. But I thoroughly enjoyed learning to worship in Setswana. Some of the songs are still stuck in my head. And I just love worship in various languages. So that for me was quite a lovely experience. Just meeting new people, different culture.
Were you involved in the church as well?
Yes, so I used to help with the children.
Oh,
as young as I was.
Started young. I got you.
So as young as I was, I always used to help with. I've always helped with children in some capacity.
So is that a preference, or were you just put in that department?
It was a preference.
Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't sing.
And you were the last
I couldn't
one?
play any instruments. There were a bunch of things I couldn't do, but look after children.
Got you. Okay. So you started building some of these, I guess, nurturing skills quite young as well.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
So even by 9, 10, we used to my sister and I would go and babysit, and so. Wow. Yeah, we had quite a small Nigerian community, so we were quite supportive of each other. So yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So how long were you there for?
In Botswana, 97 to 2001.
2001.
So 4 years, yeah.
And then you came to the UK.
Yes.
Okay. How was the transition?
This is a very interesting question.
Yeah.
Only because I do not remember getting on a plane from Botswana. I must have slept through. I don't know what happened.
Wow.
I remember landing in Heathrow.
Did you know you were coming?
We knew we were coming, but I literally, it's the strangest thing. I must have seriously slept through because I have no recollection of the trip whatsoever. Wow. I just remember landing in Heathrow with very achy ears because I usually get that during a descent on a flight. So I think I remember we went to South Africa, but even my recollection of the trip is just, I don't know. God must have removed it from my memory because,
Do you like flying?
No. I fly, but I absolutely do not like it. So up until maybe 3 years ago, as a plane takes off, tears will just start uncontrollably just streaming down my face. And it's completely uncontrollable. I'm much better now. So I think since I started flying with Sam, I've been...
Okay.
Yeah, same as PS. I don't know.
Do you know where it comes from or why?
I have no... Well, I don't like heights. And I don't like the fact that I'm just being suspended in the middle of the air by... So... Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm very... I do not like flying.
Okay.
Especially the taking of the climbing. Makes me...
I guess the descent as well, especially when it's coming on. You kind of just have to hold on.
I'm always like... And then when it hits the ground... And
do you think if you fly more, you get it?
No.
Really?
It's a height thing. It's a... Yeah, so... And the climbing... Okay. Yeah, and then the impact on my ear as well, so...
I don't know. I think the more I fly, I guess the easier it gets.
I hope so. I am praying. I mean, it's better now than what it was before 2-3 years ago. So there is an improvement. So I'm hoping it will continue that way. But I think there's a lot of psychology behind it that I would need to work on. So just, But one of the things that does actually help me with flying is that I just remember that, you know what, it's God carrying the plane. So
I mean, true.
You know?
True.
Like it's God carrying it. So.
That's true.
That helps.
That's good. Okay, so coming into the UK.
Yes.
Did you come with both parents?
No, so my dad came initially with my eldest brother. Okay. And then us ladies are always traveling together, my mum and my sisters. So we then came. And then the second born, so my second brother, then came later after everyone. So yeah.
So did he come and pastor the church here as well? Or?
My dad?
Your dad, yeah.
So he was part of the pastorate for A4 Square Church, yeah.
Okay, so he was part of it, but he wasn't pretty much leading it.
No.
Oh, okay. Do you feel like you felt any of the burden of being a pastor's kid?
Not particularly.
No. I mean, there was 5 of you.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say particularly.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to church, I think my mum's brought us up in a way that I don't know how to explain it. We're not. I'll try and think of a way to explain it later. But we're just. There wasn't a thing about, oh, you're a pastor's child, you need to be this way, you need to be that way. She really pretty much brought us up as, this is who you need to be, this is who you're supposed to be. Nothing to do with whether you're a child of a pastor or not. So I never really felt like, oh, because I'm a pastor's child, I have to be a certain way, or, you know, if I'm going to be a certain way, it's because I need to be that way, because that's who God wants me to be, rather than because, you know, people are looking at my dad and I have to reflect him in a positive light. So I think, in terms of the way my parents brought us up, I never really felt like there was a burden of, oh, your dad is a pastor, you have to be this, you have to be that. Not at all.
I tend to see that expectation comes from the outside rather than from home. And I guess at some point it may now be emphasized by maybe the pastor, the father or the mother on the child, but usually it comes from outside. That, okay, I thought you were a pastor's child, you know, when they see you outside, maybe you're at a party or something, the way you're looked at, this is what I normally see anyway. But it's a discussion I had with Wumi as well, and it was really interesting. But so you didn't feel it? Okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Did you feel like you found your role within your family quite young, or did you feel like you kind of had to like develop a role, if you understand?
Within the family, oh.
Because I feel, so the genesis of the question is that usually when you find your role within the family, you develop skills to help you build that. So usually the first the first child is usually quite loud, build some leadership skills. Okay, I tell you what to do. I don't know, delegate. Then the youngest one usually doesn't have that much responsibility. So this is kind of just what I'm thinking. But you know, do you feel like you were?
It's a difficult one to answer because I don't think my family have the sort of what you just described, basically the typical expectation that the oldest is the most mature and you know. I don't think we were brought up that way as such. My mum's a teacher, so she's very, very good at raising children equally. So there wasn't, you know, oh, Wumi's the baby of the house, you know, she has to be pampered, she has to be looked after. Nope, we all got treated equally. So it makes it a bit difficult to answer the question. But I think as I've gotten older, one of the things that's happened is that my mum and I have gotten closer, and particularly spiritually as well. So I feel like when it comes to a lot of the spiritual aspects of things in the family, it's me she would come to. You know, obviously, you know, apart from my dad.
Is it because you're married to a pastor?
Pardon?
Is it because you're married to a pastor?
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. So I feel like if she needs advice, she'll probably come to myself, my sister, one of my brothers, you know, just different things like that. So I think my role within the family has evolved as I've gotten older, and as I've matured, rather than, you know, rather than because of anything else.
Okay. Oh, that's cool. Your physician's associate, excuse me. Do you feel like your, desire for science kind of was stirred when you were younger, or did you kind of just fall into it when you into college and university?
Definitely from when I was younger. I've always wanted to go into a medical profession.
Was it because your dad is a pharmacist?
No, it wasn't because my dad was a pharmacist.
I mean, it may be from different influences.
No, I understand.
Consciously or unconsciously.
No, I've always liked the idea of interacting with patients. And I've always understood that a lot of medicine is, it's not so much, obviously, yes, you treat people, but usually when people come to you, they're looking for assurance. They're looking for you to say you're going to be fine, or this is how complex things may get, but this is how we can support you through the journey. So I think I've always liked that about the medical field. There's no way I could be a nurse. Honestly, nurses and teachers. If you know me, you will always hear me say those are the two professions I admire the most, and the two professions I cannot ever do. You know, I think teachers and nurses are completely undervalued. Forget the pay; they're definitely undervalued. So nursing was not really the path for me, because I wanted to play a role in how a patient's condition is managed. So medicine seemed like the clear direction. But during the course of my studies, I came to the knowledge of the physician associate course. And actually, I had to sit down and say, Wumi, which lifestyle do you prefer? Yeah, so
and when you went into it, it was quite a fresh course.
It was
in the UK,
really,
right?
yeah, it was quite fresh. Even though there were sort of pilot studies of it, you know, we're talking nearly 10 years beforehand, before I actually started before I started my journey on the course. I was the first cohort back in Birmingham from God knows how many years beforehand. And I think only 2 or 3 universities were doing the course at the time. Now they're probably over 30 or thereabouts. So when I heard about the physician associate degree, one of the things that I really appreciated about it is the fact that you train almost as a generalist, rather than going into a particular specialty. You mentioned right at the beginning, I'm interested in lots of little things. So I felt a bit like with medicine, once you go down a certain path,
you kind of,
you know, you have to retrain another few years, where right now I have the flexibility. If I decided, you know, I want to work in women's health, I can literally just find a role within women's health and you know, train a bit more in that. When I say train, more learning on the job and developing my skills within the area. Whereas with medicine, it feels like you almost have to like go for another 5-6 years of training to move into a different specialty.
So how do you think it's going so far? I guess you're interested in science, and I guess the workload, because you have quite a lot of things you're doing at the moment right now. How do you feel like you're handling it?
In terms of being a physician associate and life in general?
Both.
Okay. In terms of being a physician associate, I'm absolutely loving it. I'm working in general practice, so you know, it helps me with maintaining my sort of generalist knowledge and skills, which is just brilliant. I am working in general practice, which is great. So yeah, I get to see a lot of presentations. You know, people coming with anything and everything. I love the fact that, you know, one moment you can be talking to a patient about an earache, and the next one you're talking to them about, you know, a bereavement, or, you know, the next, your calls are so varied, you just don't necessarily know what's on your list until you see your list for the day. So I love that change that's constantly happening. I work in a very great organization that I'm absolutely loving at the moment. I'm getting to possibly do a master's alongside my work. Pardon?
Paid for?
Yes.
Come on.
God
that's
is
how you do
good.
it.
God is
That's good.
There's also the opportunity for me to train in an area that I would really like. So we're part of a trust, which means that some of the sort of hospital services that can be run from the community, we're trying to see how we can integrate it into the community. So that then, you know, I could possibly run sort of like clinics, rather than people having to go to secondary care, so hospital for certain things. We might be able to bring some of those services into the community and run them from the community for our patients, so relieving the burden that secondary care is having to face. So it's really exciting on that front. I love my role within Impact. I am absolutely passionate about what we do. So yeah, no, things are going well in terms of Impact. You know, I love the way the community is growing, the way the community really comes together. Regarding church, again, helping out with the youth. So at the moment,
busy.
I do. At the moment, we're doing a relationship series, and what we've actually done is we've paired a leader with a member of the youth. And we're getting the youth to actually teach the sessions. So having a one-to-one with the youth has been, it's so interesting to see the thought processes people have. And just being able to guide them. So, you know, what does scripture have to say about this? Because even though we're talking about, you know, relationships within the workplace, actually, what does that look like scripturally? So whilst a lot of people think, okay, the business side of it, you know, what does it look like? What does a professional relationship at work look like? You know, how do you stop yourself from crossing boundaries between friendship and colleagueship? That's not a word.
No, I understand what you're saying.
and being a colleague, you know, what sort of boundaries do you need to have in place? And then actually, you know, what does that mean in terms of sharing your faith, you know? So that's an aspect that I then bring in and, you know, I try and get them to explore that actually.
That's good.
How does that influence your faith? You know, how do you share your faith at work? So whilst they're sort of thinking, you know, what does a relationship at work look like? You know, actually, what does God expect of you at work? What does what kind of relationship does he expect you to have with people at work, etc.? So
that's really good.
Yeah.
That's really, really good. I mean, these are some of the things I didn't think about until years later when I got into the workplace. And I think if I had known some of these, it would have prepared me for going into a workplace, planning my mind, knowing, okay, so what is my expectation here? What am I planning to do? I mean, it's years later that I'm doing this now, and I'm kind of encouraging my family as well. But I think that's excellent work.
Yeah, no, it's something that I think has always sort of been at the forefront of my mind when going into work. One of the things that from the interview, you will know that I go to church. I'm involved with a lot of church activities, you know, right from my interview. So I'm quite big on that. Even when I'm speaking to patients, you know, they say, yes, you shouldn't, you know, necessarily, you know,
push your faith.
But especially when it comes to things like emotional and mental health, I will say to them, actually, part of my role is to deal with their biological health, so their physical health, their psychological health, their emotional health, their social health, and their spiritual health. So actually, there's no reason why I can't touch on the spiritual aspects of things if they have a religion, you know. I will tell them that, you know, there are local churches that provide counseling as well, or, you know, befriending services and support. So I think there are many ways to bring your faith into the workplace. It's just nobody teaches you how. And yeah, I really, the youth that we have are at the moment are ranging from 16 to about 30. And a lot of them are either just finishing uni or, you know, exactly. So I'm really big on them knowing that, you know what, you can take your faith into the workplace. It's not about forcing your faith down people's throats, but you can share. There shouldn't be any reason why you can't share your faith in the workplace. Yeah, so.
That's really good. That's really good. You know what? I feel like we could talk for hours, but I understand you're busy. So I'm gonna like transition just a little bit. Nice. Okay, cool. Okay, let me just.
That's a lot of notes.
No. I'm just quite detailed. Okay, cool. So, when you were younger, do you feel like, you were prepared? That's a good word. You were prepared to be a wife, or do you think you prepared yourself to be a wife? Do you understand?
I do understand. Okay. No, I think it's a mixture. Okay. I think it's a mixture. I was very, very apprehensive about getting married.
In general? Okay.
Yeah. A part of me really did not want to get married. Okay. Only because I guess some of the views I had of what a wife's role potentially looks like. Not the only thing, but I guess the main thing that gave me comfort was my parents' marriage, because I don't think my parents necessarily still married.
Amen.
Yes. Amen.
Amen.
Yeah, the marriage was it obviously wasn't the only one, but it was one of the very few marriages that could say, you know what, actually marriage can be amazing and being a wife can be a beautiful thing. So you did see divorces around you? Yes, yeah. I saw abuse, divorces. So it really, really put me off getting married. But just seeing the relationship between my parents was almost that thing of, you saw more bad than good, but you have to find a way to hold on to the good to make you not...
Yeah, completely throw the whole thing away.
Exactly, yeah. So I think that was really, really good preparation. So being able to observe their marriage and just the things my mum would share with us. And
did you see highs as well as lows, or did you just see
highs? Definitely. No, definitely, yeah.
So they were quite open as well, showing you that
they were very open. Exactly,
that's good.
Exactly. No, they were very, very open.
I think that's important.
It's so important. I think a lot of people sell a very false idea of marriage. That's true. You know, you only get to see the good most times, and I'm the kind of person, you know, even when someone at home, if we disagree and we have a guest over, I would make it known to them, not like sit them down and be like, you know, but so this is not a case of, but not a case of, you know, everything's all rosy and everything's all perfect. No, sometimes we will have our disagreements, and it's something I share with people that, you know, marriage isn't always rosy, but honestly, it's so worth it. It's so worth it. Like I would not I think I would have regretted going a different route.
Wow, that's good.
So,
I'm happy to hear that.
yeah. So in terms of preparation, definitely, I think my parents' marriage prepared me. I'm a very observant person, so
That's good.
I tend to try
I've
and
noticed that, because I'm very observant, so I notice when people are observant.
When
But
people-
yeah, okay, I see.
So yeah, no, I literally looked at other people's marriages and tried to figure out what went wrong or what the imbalance was, what the discrepancy was. So I think I was proactive in trying to figure those things out.
Okay.
So when Sam and I were in the earlier stages of our relationship before we got married, there were a lot of things that we would discuss, and
Okay.
I would tell him about my apprehensions, and
Okay.
he would say things to encourage me, and just so there were lots of little things that prepared me.
Okay.
For being a wife,
Okay.
But I
So
don't
it was
think
more so a journey as opposed to...
exactly.
Which is good. Which is good. Well, I'm glad you mentioned yourself and Sam. So you guys met quite young.
Yes.
Kind of young.
Yeah.
It was at a retreat, no? Or was it before that?
Camp.
Yeah, camp retreat.
So Sam and I initially met maybe 4 or 5 years before camp.
Before that?
Yeah.
Wow.
So we met at another youth sort of gathering in Luton, I believe.
Foursquare?
Yeah, Foursquare.
Okay.
So they like to do this activity of go and find someone you've never spoken to before and find out 3 things about them. So he was one of the people that I spoke with.
Okay.
So he remembered me from then, actually.
Okay.
My memory is just, he's blessed.
Okay.
So 4 or 5 years later, we met at youth camp. And then, so...
Okay. I like how you ended it there.
I know, right?
You're waiting for the question. All right, cool. So yes, I guess my question was, do you feel like, well, I mean, you did meet earlier on, so it wasn't more so like love at first sight, or, it was, let me just pull out the actual question. Did you know immediately, or was it more of a process of getting to know him and then you're like, oh, okay, maybe this could work?
I did not know immediately.
Okay.
I think it was a journey to getting there.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of how to answer your question. Definitely I did. He knew way before me. He was pretty sure way before me.
Okay.
And I think part of my lack of clarity was because, again, my apprehensions about marriage, and I think I had it at the back of my head that, Wumi, if you enter this, you're entering it for life, pretty much. I wasn't in a place where I just wanted to be in a relationship for the sake of being in a relationship. So I think my apprehensions or my lack of clarity were more to do with my fears of marriage rather than him specifically.
Okay.
But actually, it was something I did spend a while praying about. And I remember the particular day I felt God speak to me about it. It was during one of the choir practices, and I was just helping out with the audiovisual stuff at the back. And,
How long have you been dating at this point?
Maybe about a year.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe about a year. But anyway, that's a different story.
Okay.
So in terms of our dating, the reason I paused was just because in terms of when we both have a debate about when it was official.
Okay.
So that's why I laughed. You might want to cut that out. Sorry. That's why I laughed.
That's okay.
This is how I'm talking to you rather than the
That's okay. That's okay.
What was I saying? So I was at choir. I was helping out at choir practice, and I suddenly just became overwhelmed with emotion, and I was just like, God, what is it that you desire from this, and what would you have me do, and
so that was on your mind at the time of worship.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. So. Yeah, I just broke down in tears, and I think at this point I was probably on the floor. Just like, God, I really need to know, in terms of getting married and all these things, and it's, just so confusing. And so it had nothing to do with, it had absolutely nothing to do with Sam. Sam was perfect and still is. It was more so just my own fears and apprehensions about life in general. And God spoke to me at that point. I think I've only ever heard God speak audibly to me twice, and that was one of those moments. And it's interesting because it wasn't, what he said was just, he didn't say, oh, Sam is your husband. what he said was so meaningful to me that I was convicted. I was convinced. You know, there was no telling me otherwise. So
Okay.
yeah. So.
Did you sound like Morgan Freeman?
He did not.
I'm joking. Okay. All right, cool. So I'm going to go into this if this is okay with you. So your journey was far from conventional.
Yeah.
You didn't take you didn't take the easy way out. Can you touch on some of the challenges you kind of both saw and went into and kind of felt in and around, dating?
Yeah, definitely. So I think one of the biggest challenges that Sam and I faced was a lot of uncertainty about our future.
Okay.
And, for example, where we would be living in terms of which country, there were a lot of uncertainties about our future. So I think, that would have been our biggest challenge. But how do I put this? I am when it comes to faith, like there's nothing I believe is impossible. So
okay, persistent.
I was quite, because I was already confident of what God had said, and I guess my expectations of marriage, my expectations of our roles, all those things weren't the typical sort of expectations that people have. In terms of sort of gender roles within a relationship and all that sort of stuff. Okay. So I think quite a few, I'm trying to phrase this. I think there were quite a few things that I guess got me through that. The primary one being my faith in God, my trust, my confidence, my assurance in knowing that, you know what, so long as this is of God, we're going to be fine, regardless of where we end up, regardless of, where the journey takes us. I've always had that confidence in God that, you know what, it's all going to be fine. So I think, that was our biggest challenge. Knowing how things would work out and where God would, set us up in.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that.
So,
because I guess a lot of people kind of feel like, especially during the dating engagement phase, if things are going bad, it's a sign that this isn't going to work. Do you understand? And it seems like their foundation isn't built so solid to a point where, okay, whatever happens, this by the grace of God will work. It's more so, let me just go and find someone else, or if there are other options, let's go and pursue that. Do you understand? But you guys didn't take the easy way out. It was like you guys had this solid conviction that even a lot of the forces were things you couldn't really control. It was just things, so it was, but it was really encouraging. I mean, looking from the outside, and it was very, very encouraging. But I'm not sure how it felt on you and Sam as well.
It definitely had its challenges. I think for me, one of my biggest challenges is having an uncertainty about the future. Although that is very much counteracted by my confidence in God, it doesn't mean it doesn't come with its emotional challenges. It doesn't mean it doesn't come with its questions. It doesn't mean it doesn't come with its, God, is this still the right way forward? But I think there were certain things that God would just do to sort of boost our faith, or, to encourage us. And I think just who Sam was made such a big difference as well. Just his character, the way he cared about me. There's my top favorite thing about Sam is how much he loves God and his relationship with God. That is probably my favorite thing about him. The second thing is how he cares. Like Sam knows how to love and care. And I think for me, that came from seeing how he was with his sister, seeing how he was with his mom. One of my biggest and fondest memories of Sam was when his mom was unwell, and, she'd gone to bed. So it was like maybe a king size bed, which was sort of against the wall, and she was sleeping on the side that wasn't near the wall. And he physically carried her in his arms to sort of get her closer to, and just observing, just seeing that, I was just like, God, like, that is not something you obviously people can learn it, but that was something that was so inherent within him. Nobody had to tell him to do that. For me, that was just beautiful. He would do simple little things like, when we're walking along the road, till today he'll always make sure I'm on the inside. Like I'm never on the side of the road. So there were just so many little things about him, which I guess were part of what my core values were. Just his ability to care is, it's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah, beyond words.
You got a good one.
I do.
That's amazing. Yeah. So you have a passion for nurturing young women, children, and mental health as well. What are some needs or gaps that you kind of felt like you saw that I guess kind of led you into some of these fields?
Yeah. I think growing up, I'm a very observant person. So I quickly saw the difference between, again, how my parents brought me up and how, other parents were bringing up their children. One of the things I mentioned earlier was the fact that our parents were quite open and honest with us. My mum early on was very, she would sit us down, have conversations with us, tell us about how how her experiences were growing up. And I think just seeing the significance of that, the effect of that on my growth and my development and my siblings as well. I felt that it was very important that children are nurtured from a very young age, that children have the right values instilled in them from a very young age. Children have the opportunity to learn from your own experiences rather than necessarily everybody will have to make everybody will have to still sort of go through their own experiences, but at least if there's the opportunity for them to learn from somebody else's
mistakes,
positive actions or mistakes, then actually why not? So I think that's why I'm really passionate about it. In terms of children growing up, one of the things that when I see a child, I guess my medical side comes out as well because I look at their development, what they're supposed to be doing at different stages and what they're supposed to be achieving. And some parents don't know this. So actually helping parents understand that, for me, I'm really passionate about that. Parents not being worried about certain aspects of development as well, because actually there's this, time frame for them to achieve it. So you don't have to stress yourself and worry. For me, in terms of nurturing children, I think that's sort of what sparked it. I like them to have the right values from a very young age, to have a good sense of identity from a very young age, to know how to love, to know how to share, to know how to be your brother's keeper. It needs to start from when they're very, 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 very young. And that's something my mum always said to me as well. You don't start disciplining a child from when they're able to walk, or you start disciplining them from when they're, on the breast. If they're breastfeeding, you let them, you start teaching them at that stage. So for me, that was very important. In terms of women, again, unless your parent or sisters or close relative or friends teach you certain things, you just won't know. So I really do feel like a lot of women go through a lot of things that they don't necessarily have to, because they don't necessarily have the knowledge that actually this is not normal, or this is normal, or this is what I can expect, or this is what I shouldn't expect. So I think that lack of knowledge or lack of right knowledge, it makes me really passionate about making sure that women know about their health, what is normal, what isn't normal. So I'm quite passionate about that.
Have you seen quite a lot of negative experiences from people doing things out of lack of knowledge?
Definitely,
Man, if only she had known, or if only they had known.
Yeah, definitely. So, sorry to use the example, but periods. It's a classic example. A lot of women don't know, your periods don't have to be heavy, and you don't have to be flooding and all these things. And it's not a nice experience. The impact that, just heavy periods has on a woman's life. Women don't necessarily always, again, not all women, but women don't also necessarily recognize the impact of their cycle on their emotional health. They don't always recognize
No,
They don't always recognize, how it affects their mood, when you're ovulating just before your cycle comes, during your cycle, some people will find that, they get menstrual migraines, but they haven't necessarily associated the two. But there are things that can be done about these things. So I'm very, very, very passionate about that as well. Women understanding hormones, especially within the, within certain communities.
No, you can say it. You can say
a lot of people have their opinions about hormones and the effect of them, So I think having the right knowledge will help you make a better informed decision, basically, over your health. So, so that's why
that's good.
I'm passionate about it.
Do you feel like you've always known your purpose?
I think purpose can be seasonal. Okay. I do believe I have an overarching purpose. Okay. And again, you know what? Me and God have these experiences on the floor.
All right, talk about it.
So this was youth camp in the country's gone up my head. No. Oh gosh, where's it? Norway. Yeah. So we had a Foursquare European youth camp in Norway, and that's one of the things we were talking about at the time. And at this point, everybody had gone out for a barbecue, and I was there on the toilet floor, which I still can't believe that happened, because me, never again. So I was literally again in tears as always. Just praying to God and trying to figure out, what is it that you want me to do in life? A lot of people sort of have an idea what they want to do. I can't even remember how. I must have been maybe 13, 14.
Wow. Young.
Yeah, but I was really, really I was determined. I was like, I'm not leaving here. They cannot enjoy their barbecue. God,
come on.
Me and you.
Come on.
we're going to be at this until I get some kind of an answer. And again, at that point, he spoke to me. He said, "Wumi, what do you do best?" And I was like, "I don't know." He was just like, you know what? Just think about what you do. Think about what people say you're good at. Think about what people say comes naturally to you. Think, just all these things. And eventually, he said to me, that motherhood, and I just thought, wait, what? I have to have children and do all these things to fulfill my purpose. And he's like, no, when it comes to motherhood, it's not just about my own my own biological children. So for me, motherhood has always been a huge thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
13, 14?
Yeah. It came from when I was pretty young. So you always hear me say, my child here, my child there. Motherhood for me has been it's a really big purpose. So when people say, and a lot of people would say to me anyways, and I'm just like, okay, but and there were actually, I think the following youth camp and maybe a few other sort of instances where people actually prayed over me, and they'd pray, that
see your vision or something.
Yeah, so they'd be like, God has called you to be a mother, and I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. Because I'm like, you're just saying that because you see the type of person I am, but no. Once God said that, about a year later, it was confirmed. About another year later, it was confirmed. So I had like 2 or 3 confirmations at least. So
that's good.
Yeah.
I think your service to others is one of those things that people tend to see in themselves last, because they think this is normal. Everyone does this. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Usually when you have gifts that I guess it's very visual and people can see it, maybe when you speak or when you prophesy, or I don't know, when you have a massive talent, people can see that, okay, there we go, that's his purpose, or that's what God has put him on this earth. Do you understand? But usually when it's understated, when it's service, when it's loving people, caring for people, people don't tend to see that as, everyone does this. What is so special about, why would God put me here to do this when everyone can do this? Do you understand? But God puts in people unique talent that drive to do it is different from everyone else. But I think, no, it's true, because I think Jumi is very similar as well. I think in some ways, I don't think I'm like you guys, but I think in some ways I'm quite observant, and I do love acts of service. I do feel like I'm the kind of guy that would go out of my way just to love someone and serve someone and help someone.
Definitely.
And I never really counted it as a purpose, or as
nothing.
why would anyone can do this? Do you understand?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think understanding that and then walking in that light is there is definitely a truth and a strength in that.
Yeah.
You know, it's definitely needed in this world.
Definitely. And you just mentioned something, you know, walking in that light. Motherhood is something that I've literally had to study. Like I've started like over the last 3-4 years. I think it's one thing knowing that, oh, this is the path God wants you to take. But I think there's a part about, there's a need to be intentional, about growing in that. You know, it's not just something that, yes, even though it can feel like an innate thing. I think there's a part where you do need to learn, you do need to study what it means to be a mother, you know, looking at mothers in the Bible and the impact they had on their children's lives, you know. So that's something I've been studying, and I'm still studying what it means to be a good mother, not just to, again, biological children, but what it means to mother other people and their children, or other children. Yeah.
That's good. That's really good. Okay, so we won't keep you too long.
Nice.
3 more questions. So, what advice would you give a younger version of yourself?
Ooh, what advice would I give a younger woman? What advice would I give a younger me? Be more confident. Yeah, I'd tell myself to be more confident. What other advice would I give a younger me? To maybe read more, because I'm not a big fan of reading. So I would have definitely encouraged the younger me to read more, to try and find a way to enjoy reading.
Okay.
I'd say confidence and
reading
more. Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Definitely.
That's good. I think it's something we all need more of. Read more and being confident. Yeah. Final question. Whew. Okay, this one you may need to maybe give a bit more, but if it's short for you, please feel free.
That's fine.
How has marriage changed your opinion of what to look for in a spouse? Because even for you, it was unique as well.
I don't think it's changed my opinion of what to look for in a spouse.
Okay.
I think I found what I needed in a spouse. And I didn't find it before marrying him. I found it. I didn't find it after marrying him. I found it before marrying him. So I don't think it's changed my opinion of what to look for.
So what you were looking for was exactly what you found?
Was exactly what, exactly. So I wouldn't say, it hasn't changed anything. I would say what it's done is it's made me more intentional about what to encourage people to look for, if that makes sense.
Okay. Which is?
So again, the way they love. So look at the way they love God. Look at the way they serve God. Look at the way they love their family, particularly women in their family. You know, if I'm speaking to a woman, you know, looking for a husband, you know, look at the way they love the women in their family. How they.
You think that translates?
It does.
Okay.
100%. 100%. Unless they don't have women in the family, but they'll at least have a mom. Anyways. Oh gosh.
Okay.
So look at how they treat the opposite gender basically in their families, and how they treat the women around them, how they speak about the women around them, you know, their opinion of a woman, you know, what their expectations are of a woman. Look at how they handle disagreement. For me, that was a major thing because I do not like conflict.
Okay.
I literally avoid conflicts where I
Really?
can. Yeah, I'm a bit better now. I don't avoid it as much now. But look at how they handle conflict. That for me was a big thing. And that for me was something I really appreciated about
So you weren't
Sam.
going to get into a relationship with someone who would have a shouting match?
I wouldn't. It just would not. Because you would want to have a shouting match, but I would literally just stare at you. So it won't work. So looking at how they handle conflict.
I don't think I've actually seen Sam angry.
Yeah.
I don't think I can remember actually seeing.
No. And it's not just about how he handles sort of heated discussions. It's his response to it during and after. You know, I always say this, which I'll just say anyway.
Brag on Sam, my guy. Brag on Sam, please.
Like, even if I'm the one that's offended him, he's the one that is more likely to come to me and say, you know, Wumi, what just happened isn't great. You know, let's talk about it. I apologize for the, you know, part that I've played in it. And for me, that is such a big
Disarming.
thing for somebody to say, you know, even though I'm the one in the wrong, the fact that they can
Humble themselves.
yeah, and just come and approach you, you know, for me that is a big thing, especially when you're trying to avoid. So yeah, how they handle conflict, how they manage their finances, again, a big thing for me.
This is all before.
Yeah, this is all before. So these are all the things that I was picking up on.
Okay.
Yeah. You have to observe these, and we had a nice long period of time before we got married for me to observe it anyway.
Okay.
So
how long were you guys?
Again, depending on who you ask.
Okay, how long do you think? How long was it for you?
It's debatable. I would say anything between 5 and 7 years.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, I was the kind of person that said, unless you make it official, nothing is official until you because I don't do none of that. Yeah, but we don't. I don't do that. So even though yes, we were together, I said until you make it official. Yeah. So that's what. Yeah. So yeah, just looking for those things really. How he interacted with his friends as well. Yeah, his aspirations. But yeah, so those are some of the things that.
That's good.
I try and encourage people to look out for.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Wumi. Honestly, I feel like we could have carried on
Yes.
because there was a lot of things that I feel like we could just kept on going on.
I
But
know.
just kind of like because
You have
of
to
time.
hold back.
Would you come back?
Oh, definitely.
Oh yeah. Oh, fantastic.
100%.
Fantastic. That's amazing. Thank you. Honestly, appreciate you for coming.
Thank you
so much for taking time out to really encourage and share on your life. And yeah, I hope some of you guys can take some of this, and really apply it to yourselves. For those of you, if it applies, if it doesn't, take what you need, maybe pass it on to someone else, share it with someone. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Leave in the comments what you thought. If you have any questions for me, where can they find you on?
You cannot find
media?
me anywhere.
I was asking the question. I was like, this woman is not on social media.
No, I'm not.
Okay, so where can they find you?
You cannot find me anywhere.
They can find you at Foursquare Gospel Church.
Yes.
They can find you at Impact Mission UK.
Yes, they can.
They can find you at work.
Yeah, they
if
can find
you have a
you
problem.
don't need to know where that is.
But okay, so those are pretty much.
Yeah, sorry guys.
Yeah, don't worry.
You can find me through Loudly.
Yeah, or just put a comment below if you have any questions that you needed to be referred. But yeah, thank you guys again for sticking us with this episode. If you made it to the end, God bless you. Thank you very much. Y'all have a good week. Take care.